Good morning, everybody. Yesterday was the Nanaimo Ladysmith by-election, and the People's Party didn't win. The Green Party did. So here's a tweet from the Burnaby South PPC official writing. It says, "We would like to congratulate at Jennifer M. Clark and the rest of the crew for a well-fought campaign. The general election will be different as people start to take notice more and more to the PPC." And it's got the election result here, and the Green Party got 37%, and Jennifer Clark got 3.1%, 1,000 votes. And the difference was, the Green Party candidate won with 12,000 votes. So local elections are very small. It's very small. Your votes do matter. They really do impact. So it's interesting to note. Here's the CBC reporting. Green Party candidate Paul Manley has won the federal by-election in the BC riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith. And here it is again. And I won't read the title again or a third time. And it says, Manley is the second Green candidate elected to a federal seat after the party's leader, Elizabeth May, the sole elected Green MP in the House of Commons since 2011. With almost 99% of polls reporting, Manley had 37.3% of the vote. Conservatives captured 24.8% and the NDP 23.1%. The Liberals lagged behind with 11%. Manley's victory in the Vancouver Island riding comes with less than 6 months remaining before October's general election. In a written statement released shortly after the results were announced, the Green Party of Canada said the win, quote, hailed the dawn of a new era in federal politics, and noted the riding had traditionally been an NDP stronghold. May thanked voters, writing, quote, it is brave to vote for real change. Interesting. Here is the Financial Post. This is a different tact. Or a different kind of story other than the federal politics. Actually, quickly, I couldn't imagine Elizabeth May being the official opposition or prime minister. I just have to point that out. I don't think she's prime ministerial material, and I really don't think that she's opposition material. So, that's just my opinion, but I think voting Green needs to go beyond the feelings, right? Will the legislator, do they have a good team? Number one, do they have a person in every riding? No, they don't. And two, what is their team comprised of? What do their candidates look like? Are they all protesters and people who are very, what's the word? Activists or something to that effect, or do they have meat to bring to their position other than just green activism, right? Because that's not enough to run a party on. Even the NDP has trouble attracting qualified, solid candidates to be able to actually fill positions in cabinet, right? Because you need to have people who have negotiated billion-dollar deals, because billion-dollar deals are what countries deal in. And you need to have people who understand that. People who understand how to solve problems with China. You need to have people who have solved big problems or have negotiated those things. I'm just pointing this out because people can say, oh, I want to vote Green, and have absolutely no depth to their thought process other than Green will save the planet or something to that effect. And to that, I would say, well, there's a lot to say to that, but bankrupting the nation in a misguided quest to end plastics or CO2 emissions does not make sense. Hurting Canada because we are 1.6% of emissions, and we certainly don't put plastic into the rivers that are polluting the oceans with plastic. Those are in China and Asia, right? So, the Green Party policies, while they may feel good, don't necessarily translate to being good for Canada, and their team may not be the best team to run it. Canada, right? Okay, sorry for my little rant. Back to the Financial Post. Money laundering, and I've talked about this a lot. I talk about affordability, kitchen table issues. Can a 20-year-old making $30,000 or $40,000 a year afford to pay back their student loans and buy a house? No. Isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem? And not a problem that you should solve with loans? Oh, don't worry, the federal government will buy 10% of your house. No, that is the wrong way to solve the problem. Wrong way to solve the problem, especially when this is the other issue that we're dealing with. Financial Post reporting, money laundering by foreigners is what's really destroying housing affordability in Canada. Of all the recent shenanigans in Ottawa, the failure to plug money laundering loopholes remains the most egregious. Here's the problem. Canadian cities rate highly among the most desirable in the world, but also the most unaffordable. Vancouver took the top spot for unaffordability in 2017, based on the gap between low income and high prices, according to a global study. Toronto was the 13th most unaffordable, a major obstacle to attracting talent or head offices. The culprit has been money laundering by criminals, kleptocrats, and tax evaders. Their favorite means of hiding money is real estate. In 2018, Ontario and BC imposed a 15% tax on non-resident buyers, resulting in home sales falling around 40% in Vancouver in January compared to the same period last year. I scroll down. In the Toronto region, the average sales price of a home in 2018 fell slightly to $787,300 from $822,681, still excessive when taking income to pricing into consideration. Much more must be done by governments. The foreign buyer tax can be evaded easily because there is no transparency and disclosure requirements. Anti-corruption organization Transparency International offered a glimpse into the scale of foreign speculation abuse in 2015 with an analysis of Vancouver's 100 most valuable property deals. It found 50% of ownerships were hidden through shell companies, nominees, and trusts. The same likely applies to Toronto and Montreal, where money is parked in condos that are often left vacant. I want to note here, there have been multiple articles, so this is me, not the Financial Post, there have been multiple articles talking about the problem of all of this money going into vacant homes and no will to investigate it, right? Absolutely. The RCMP shut down investigations. Investigations fall apart just as they're about to go to trial. All of this money laundering stuff is neatly organized and completely ignored. And like it's almost systemically. And there've become international crime syndicates calling the method they use to launder money the Vancouver method, because they use it. They ship drugs over from China. They make the drugs in China and they ship it over. This is fentanyl, carfentanil, and they sell it in Vancouver. And then they launder the money through the casinos and real estate, and they send that money back to China to fund more drugs. So that is currently happening and increasing our housing prices, and nobody, not the RCMP, not local police, not the government, nobody is doing anything about it. It's incredible. Okay, back to the article. Statistics Canada says the RCMP estimates up to $15 billion of laundered money enters Canada each year. That doesn't include laundering by crooks who also bury proceeds in real estate. What government must do, according to the latest report by the United Nations Financial Action Task Force, FATF, is crack down on money laundering enablers in Canada: lawyers, real estate agents, notaries, and developers. I'm going to pause here. I think maybe there's other things that they can do. I'm going to just continue reading this, but again, there have been a lot of articles talking about this problem, a lot of frustrated whistleblowers and former police officers. There was a W5, like an hour-long W5 program talking specifically about a money laundering case that fell apart. They were coming to the public to get public pressure for the government to do something. Like, this is a big, big problem. So blaming the lawyers and real estate agents who are just doing what their clients ask, I think is folly, really do. But I'm going to read the rest of this article because here it is. Back to the article. Requirements in Canada are inoperative toward legal counsels, legal firms, and Quebec notaries, said the FATF report. In light of those professionals' key gatekeeper roles, in particular in high-risk sectors and activities such as real estate transactions and the formation of corporations and trusts, this constitutes a serious impediment to Canada's efforts to fight money laundering or terrorist financing. Naturally, I'm going to go off a little bit here on terrorist financing as well. Check out what's happening with Tom Quiggin right now. He is outlining how the Trudeau government is funding Islamic terrorism. This is a big deal. This is happening currently, and it's nowhere on the front page. It's very interesting to watch. Okay, back to the article. Naturally, vested interests claim money laundering and foreign buyers are minuscule, but if true, then why did taxes on a small percentage of foreign owners in BC and Ontario, along with a ban on foreign buying in New Zealand, bring about price relief, mostly on luxury properties? The disclosure of beneficial owners is a key solution. Otherwise, for example, real estate can be bought by a proxy person or company. Typically, funds come from a trust managed by a shell company owned by another trust with an account in Luxembourg or Vanuatu, managed by a Swiss or Singaporean banker who doesn't know the owner. Such arrangements must be illegal. The U.S. Treasury Department now requires beneficial ownership disclosure. Think about this for a second. This is me again, guys. Think about this. Do you know a Vanuatu or Luxembourgish bank that you could get an account at? Or how about a Swiss or Singaporean banker? Do you know the pathway to get a Swiss or Singaporean banker? Because I don't. I don't. I'm sure I could internet search it. I'm sure I could Google it. Do you think CSIS would flag me if they saw me searching for a Swiss or Singaporean banker? How come Bill Morneau, whose wife is the heir to McCain Foods, and he's our finance minister. He was on the Panama Papers. Did you know that? That's weird, right? So isn't it interesting that money laundering is completely ignored in our modern day Canada? Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? Back to the article. This is what Canada must do to drive out dirty money and get prices in line, according to this person who I mostly disagree with right now. Create a public registry or beneficial owners and penalties for non-disclosure. Okay, that I agree with. Lawyers, real estate agents, and notaries must report suspicious owners and transactions, as is now required of banks. Yeah, I don't know if I can get behind that. Speculation must be stopped by taxing residences that are unoccupied, which will also free up supply. Yep. Where real estate prices have soared above affordable levels for locals, bans on foreign ownership should be imposed, as has been done in New Zealand, China, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Greece, Hungary, Denmark, Poland, and Malta, among others. Current proposals by NDP to flood the market with new affordable housing, or by Conservatives to fill zoning restrictions, simply won't move the dial. No, it won't. We need to fix the problem. Here is a minute of Pierre Poilievre asking Mr. Bill Morneau, please, sir, can you tell me when construction will start on the Trans Mountain Pipeline? Note, construction was supposed to start in the summer of I believe it was supposed to be even 2017, but I'm going to say 2018 because I remember reporting on this in May of last year as well, saying like summer started and shovels aren't in the ground. And I think Bill Morneau, Will Ferrell lookalike and married to Miss McCain of McCain Foods, right? Look at him. Doesn't he look like Will Ferrell? Made that face too, then. Exactly the same one. And I think he's got the same script from last year too. Let's listen.
We'll get a decision on the Trans Mountain Pipeline on June 18th. Your counterpart, Minister Sohi, has said there might not be a decision before the election, but you're confirming there will be. Yes or no?
What I'm confirming, as I've just said, is that the process that we've been going through will lead us to a cabinet discussion.
But will the decision be announced before the election? Yes or no?
I expect that on June 18th we'll be able to provide you with more information because we're going through a process.
A decision?
As I said, we're going through a process that will lead us to a...
You bought the thing a year ago. You promised that construction would begin immediately. You said the very latest it would start at summer. It hasn't started. I asked you 5 times already when the construction will begin. You can't give an answer. And now you can't even tell us when you'll publicly reveal your decision on whether it's going to go ahead ever. Can you understand why Canadians are a little worried after you put $4.5 billion of their money at stake and canceled 2 other pipelines that you might have just engaged in a monstrous boondoggle here?
Well, what we recognize is important is that we go through the review and the discussions with the interveners in this project in a way that respects their points of view. That process is going on.
I just wanted you to hear the Liberal tap dance there. That's the Liberal tap dance. I'm not going to answer the question you asked. I'm going to reframe the question into something that I want to talk about, and you can hear my talking points. That's what the Liberal tap dance is. And I mean, politicians do this. They have to get their talking points out, and often everybody's going to fall into this a little bit because you answer the same question over and over and over again. But this was a question, and I was corrected there by Mr. Poilievre, but he bought the pipeline last year, so it was 2018, sorry, not 2017. And this is too long for public money to be sitting inactive, tied up in court battles. This is what the Liberals have sown. Absolutely zero action on getting our natural resources to market. This is something that Canada depends on to maintain the standard of living that we enjoy currently. And these Liberals are either completely inept or doing this on purpose. Neither is a good outcome. Here's the last 2 little stories I've got today. Andrew Coyne, he likes the Liberals. So this is in the National Post, but he definitely likes the Liberals. He says, Canadians have fallen desperately out of love with Justin Trudeau. Yes, we have. I was never in love with Justin Trudeau in the first place, but nobody likes him now. There are precedents for the extraordinary swoon in popularity the governing Liberals are currently enduring and have endured. 20 points in the polls in 2.5 years, according to data collected by the CBC's poll tracking site. But you've got to go back a way to find one. The Harper government stayed within comparatively narrow band throughout its time in office, never falling below 30%, never rising much above 40%. The Chrétien government likewise lost only a little altitude over the years, remaining well above 40% in most polls until the sponsorship scandal brought them down to earth. But a government falling this far, this fast in its first term, to have done so, what is more, without even the aid of a recession, with unemployment and mortgage rates both in the single digits, and separatism, in Quebec at least, quiescent. The only parallel that comes to mind is with the first Mulroney government. That government, it will be recalled, managed to recover, winning re-election on the strength of its signature free trade initiative and growing public doubts about the opposition leader. But with less than 6 months to go until the election, it's unclear what similar combination of circumstances can revive the Trudeau Liberals. Poll Tracker now has them at an average of 7 points behind the Conservatives. There are reputable pollsters who put them as much as 13 points behind. Worse still are the numbers in the regions where elections in Canada are won and lost. They're now 10 points back in BC, where they have led by 5 in the last election. The party's best showing there since 1968. They trail narrowly in Ontario, the province where they won 10 points last time. Likewise for Atlantic Canada, where they won by nearly 40 points. Even in Quebec, where as late as the start of this year, they look likely to pick up a dozen seats or more, enough to make up for their projected losses elsewhere. Their lead is now down to just 10 points, the same as in 2015 in Quebec. Not so long ago, the worst-case scenario for the party was that it would be reduced to a minority. As things stand, that's about the best it can hope for. The good news... No, that was the good news. Okay. Back to Coyne. The good news is that disaffected Liberal voters have not coalesced around a single opposition party. Rather, some support has gone to Conservatives, some to Greens, some to the Bloc Québécois. Neither has the NDP, whose fortunes tend to move inversely with those of the Liberals, shown much strength. The bad news is that the hoped-for split on the right via Max Bernie's People's Party has not yet materialized. See, he wants a Liberal. The hoped-for split? Come on. National Post, whatever. Anyway, back to the article. It's easy to identify the source of the Liberals' most recent drop in the polls. The 11 points it has given up since the end of January coincided neatly with the detonation of the SNC-Lavalin scandal, but the larger point is that the party has been bleeding support since the beginning of 2017. Though the party recovered some of its losses from the India trip disaster last year, it was only to levels that previously would have been considered low points. It is difficult to avoid the conclusion that the party's unpopularity is connected to that of its leaders. I scroll down. For as long as the public's fascination with the son of Pierre Trudeau lasted, the party milked it to its advantage. He was on every magazine cover and every viral video, did every interview or photo shoot. But there was always a danger in this. The more fiercely the flame of infatuation burns, the more quickly it goes out. And the public would appear to have fallen desperately out of love with Justin Trudeau. The latest Angus Reid poll gives him an astonishing net approval rating of minus 39%. 28% approval, 67% disapproval. You minus those two, and that's what you get. It isn't that there isn't any great wave of enthusiasm for his rivals. Among party leaders, only the Green Party's Elizabeth May enjoys a positive net approval rating, but none excite anywhere near such antipathy. So it's interesting. Again, I don't think I see Elizabeth May as prime ministerial. I think people don't mind her, but I don't think people are thinking, yes, we want her to lead the country. I scroll down. There is, of course, still time to turn things around. Campaigns matter, and much can happen even before the campaign, but as much can happen that hurts the Liberals' cause as helps. The simmering dispute with China, the Canadian lives on the line, the unfinished business over NAFTA with a renegotiated treaty no closer to approval by the U.S. Congress than it was 7 months ago, the trial this summer of Vice Admiral Mark Norman, whose defense alleges political interference in a police investigation, raising echoes of the SNC-Lavalin affair. All these threaten to disrupt any Liberal recovery strategy. Free trade was a big idea, the polarized opinion, with the Mulroney Conservatives owning one side of the debate. Is there a big polarizing idea the Liberals can own? Or will they inevitably have to share it with 3 other parties on the left? Well, it looks like they're trying to own everybody else is a white supremacist, and unless you vote Liberal, you're also a white supremacist. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that's the wedge they're trying to use, and they're using it terribly, as you can see. I mean, like, the approval ratings are terrible. But here's the last thing. This is the Abacus Reid poll, and it says the current voting intention. I just thought this was interesting. And I'll leave it here. I know this is a long one today. Voting intentions have been trending down for the Liberals, and the Conservatives are currently ahead by 3 points nationally. Today, 34% would vote Conservative, compared with 31% for the Liberals. 17 would back the NDP, while 9 would vote for the Green Party. For the Liberals, this represents a 7-point drop in 5 months, while the Conservatives are up slightly, but not much higher than our reading of public opinion at the end of 2018 and before the SNC-Lavalin controversy. Support for the NDP has remained very steady, while the Greens have inched up from 7 to 9%. So it's interesting. The Liberals are imploding, and the Conservatives are kind of sitting where they are, and the Greens have edged up 2 points, and they don't mention that other party. I just think it's interesting how many people who they're just, through selective polling, through whatever mechanism they get there, you can get a poll to say anything, right? And it's just interesting to watch. It doesn't look like anybody's coalescing around any other party. Nope, sure doesn't. Especially if you omit one of them. Right. 3%. Sure. Yep. Definitely 3%. Who's Maxime Bernier again? Oh, right. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.